Hey everyone, for this class we're going to be using Google Colab as our development environment for writing Python code. So navigate with me here, colab.research.google.com, and you should see a page like this, except if this is your first time, you're only going to see this welcome to Collaboratory and none of these files down here. So this is the environment that Google's been offering for free, which is pretty incredible considering what it provides. I'm going to click cancel right here for now and just show you what you get. So this is a virtual machine, meaning that it's over the cloud, which means that we're using computing resources from Google instead of our own laptop or desktop, whatever you're using right now. So it doesn't matter how fast your computer is, because your speed is going to be dependent on what Google gives you right here when I click this connect button. So click yours and it'll go to connecting, initializing, and first of all, those couple of seconds it took to set this RAM and disk up right here, that's pretty amazing. So I've used a lot of cloud environments. In fact, if you go to Azure or AWS, the two big ones that are both much more popular, have a much larger market shares than Google's cloud services, they're going to spend a long time spinning up. It's going to take quite a while, and you're going to sit there waiting for this thing, maybe 2 to 5 minutes for theirs to get started, and you have to do a lot more than just click a button. So with Google, you just simply have to have a Gmail account, which I'm already logged into. I guess I should have mentioned that. If you come here and you're not currently logged into a Gmail account, it's going to make you do that. So make sure that you're logged in. And then you get to this page, click connect, it spins right up. And now we're ready to write some code. So what they've got right here is called a Jupyter Notebook format. So a Jupyter Notebook can have either code cells or text cells. I'm going to double click right here where it says welcome to Colab. If I double click, it shows me the code that's making this text show up. So notice they're using what we call an HTML markup format. So you can use HTML, or there's a default Jupyter Notebook format that we can use as well. So this turns a # or hashtag creates a header 1, the equivalent of an H1 in HTML. But I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail on that. Once we have a code cell or text cell the way we want it, we can run that cell either by clicking Shift Enter, or if it's a text cell like this one, you can simply scroll down and click on the next cell. But that one goes on and on. You know what? We're just going to put our cursor in here and hit Shift Enter, and then it displays or runs the code in that cell. So down here they're explaining, they've got a video, you can watch this if you want to. It's kind of nice, but there's some more detail here and what they give you than what we really need to go through. So, by the way, this Jupyter Notebook format was not created by Google Colab. This was started by Jupyter Notebooks. So you can go to jupyter.org and you can download and install their IDE or integrated development environment, which will use your own computer's resources and use the same file format that Colab uses. So Colab is one of many editors now that has used Jupyter's open source notebook format to write Python code, which is basically, again, just a series of cells, either text cells, or here is a code cell. And I can add a new code cell like that. Code cells get this little run button over here, and I can delete over there. I can also move cells up and back down. But anyway, yeah, this Jupyter Notebook format used by Colab, created by Jupyter, but also available with many, many other tools. A common one that I'll use if I need something that's not in the cloud that I want to download on my own machine is Visual Studio Code. I'm not going to use that in this video or for this book, but know that you're welcome to, and you could copy and do everything we do in this book from Visual Studio Code or Jupyter Notebooks if you wanted to. But if we want to keep things simple and just copy and do things that I do in this book, we're just going to stick with Google Colab. So this is a Jupyter Notebook file, and we have over here our table of contents, and this is going to highlight the headers. So notice that these headers are at the top level, and down here, more resources, I have a subheader. Well, that's because if I double click in here and go into the code for that, there we go. I don't have, instead of having an H1, I have this pound sign format. So pound sign creates 3 pound signs makes a level 3 header. Notice here I'm going to make a level 1 header, level 1, 2 of them for level 2, and then I'll leave their featured examples. So notice how the headers just get progressively smaller as you add pound signs, and that allows them to be subheadings in here. For example, I'm going to add another level right here and say level 2, and then I'm going to add one more text and make this level 3. Notice as I make these progressively smaller headers, it makes them subheaders within a parent header like that. So text fields we only really use to mark up or explain code. They're not necessary, but marking up and explaining code makes it much easier for others later to come back and read and understand what it is we've created, and people will, anyone who has to deal with your code will love you and praise your name for the more of this commenting or markup that you can add to explain what's going on to make it easier to read and interpret. So this is an existing file. Now where is this file stored? That's the next question. Now currently this is stored in the colab.research.google.com website. However, you're going to create and use files from your own version of Google Drive. So let me show you how to get there. Down here where you see the folder section, we're going to click on that, and it says here's some sample data, and this is a file storage area. I can make a new file right here, and it'll live temporarily there, or I can click this Mount Google Drive button, and it gives me this this cell here to connect me to Google Drive. What I'm going to do, I'm going to get away from this intro page. I don't want to use that right now, and I'm going to create a new notebook. All right, untitled.ipynb, IPy notebook file. So I'm going to call this demo, and I'm going to open up. Notice that everything here on the left is closed now. I don't have any headers, or I don't have any text cells. So I've got nothing here in my table of contents. I can close that back out to get more space. I can go here and connect to my files. Now, all right, as soon as I clicked on this file, notice it went ahead and initialized a new runtime. So I had a prior runtime, and now I have a second one. So I can actually click here and go to Manage Sessions, and I can see both runtimes are open, and they're running 2 different machines. Now, Colab will only let you have, I think, something like 4 or 5, I can't remember the exact number, but a certain number of active machines running at once. So if you don't need one like that intro page that I was on back here, notice I still have a tab open. Actually, I'll go down here, you can see. Still have a tab open for that welcome page. But I'm going to close that one out. Yet, leave, don't save changes. And I'm going to terminate, even though the tab is closed, the session's still running. So I'm going to terminate that session. There we go, it closed. You don't have to do that. Google will eventually automatically terminate sessions, but it's kind of a responsible, nice thing to do if you're not using it. So go ahead and do that. So anyway, here on this page, I've got a new disk spinned up, or a new machine, and I want to connect to my files on Google Drive. So I click that Google Drive button. It says, do you want to allow this notebook to access your drive? Connect, yes, thank you. Now, because this was a blank file, it simply let me automatically do what's called mount my Google Drive, or make my Google Drive now appear here as a file folder structure. And these are all my own files you can see here now. Google Drive, once you create a file for the first time here on Colab, it will make this new Colab Notebooks folder for you. So break that down and you'll see yours will be empty, I think. I have a lot of stuff I've been working on, so I have a lot of files in here. But these are all files that I can access through code. For example, all the data I use for this class and other classes I have stored here in this folder, and now I can I can write code to access the data in those folders or other files. If I want to add a new file here, if I right click, I can just simply go new file, and I can make a temp.ipy notebook file right there. And there it appears. But what happens when I try to open it? I'm going to double click on it. Notice that I can't open it directly by double clicking and have it appear right here. It tries to give me some preview of it over here, and it's the same thing that it does if I were to click on one of these data files. It gives me a little preview of the data over there, but it's not going to let you open an IPy notebook by double clicking on it here and showing it here in the middle. So instead, I'm going to delete this. If we want to open an existing file, we're just going to go to File, Open Notebook, and it's going to let us go to either recent files, or I can click here to go to Google Drive and search for it through here. Now this is kind of a pain, this interface, in my opinion. So what I can do instead, if I want to, is go open up a new tab. I'm going to go to drive.google.com, go to my Colab notebooks from here. I'm going to go to code samples and just grab any old IPy notebook file, and if I double click on it from my Google Drive view, it recognizes that it's a .ipy notebook file, and it's going to open it directly here into Google Drive. So now that you have a file open, you can edit this. You can see it over here. There you go, once this is connected. And I can mount Google Drive. I have to tell it it's okay. Give it a second to finish that. There we go. Drive, my drive, Colab, code samples, and here's this file. But again, remember, I can't double click on something here and have it open up. It will give me a preview of it over here, but it's not the same. Notice it's got some extra stuff in there like that. So just as a reminder, if you want to edit something, you can either A, go to your drive first and double click on it and open it up, or B, when you're already in Colab, you can go to File, New, or Open Notebook takes you back to this view, or you can just create a new one. All right, so throughout this book you'll use this. I'm going to close this one out and go back to the little demo one that I made right here. And let's just check and make sure that you can run some code. So to start, we're going to start with print the classic hello world that everybody does. And we can run this in two ways. Now I'm assuming, well, you may or you may not have experience with Python at this point, but just copy my code and make sure you have it exactly. So we can run this two ways. You can either click the run button here and it'll create the output right down here for you, or just have your cursor anywhere in the code cell. Let me add some more lines. I'm going to enter down and say print hello back. Okay, it doesn't matter where my cursor is. If I hit Shift Enter, it's going to run everything. And then it says, here's your output, and it'll automatically create a new code cell for you when you do that, when you hit Shift Enter. If I just click the run button, it won't do that. But there's really no problem with it creating a new code cell, so I usually just get in the habit of using Shift Enter. You'll get a lot faster that way. Now down here, you'll notice this little box with the arrow. This lets you clear the output. Sometimes that'll be useful. You don't have to clear the output in order to run the cell again, though. So I can, whenever I run it, it'll just automatically clear and then print things out. So again, as a reminder, let's create some text and some code cells using our buttons here. So I'm going to make a text down here, but I want this to be the first cell in the page, so I'm going to move it up. I'm going to double click to edit it. I'm going to use £1 sign to say introduction. I'm going to hit Shift Enter to run this cell, although I don't even really have to do that. I could just have my cursor in here and click off of it and it would automatically display it, right? But then I'm going to click on this one, add another text cell, and say header 2. And let's take a look at our table of contents. So come over here and let's move up to this tab right there, and you'll see there's an introduction and a header. I'm going to click on this cell, add another text block, and say, do another single pound sign and say another header, Shift Enter. And now give it a second. It put it right here in the wrong spot first because it's expecting a subheader. But if you wait just a minute, there we go. It shifts it back over there to the left because it knows, all right, this is a level 1 header, this is a level 2 header, and this is a level 1 header again, so bring it back over here. So you can organize your code using text cells. You know how to create code cells, you know how to write code. I think we're good to get started. So through the rest of this book, you can do a couple of things. You can always create your own files to work from, or you can always go to your book, and I'm going to come here to this one. Now, this is just a sample, but in the book you'll see lots of code blocks like this one. Each one of these code blocks has a link in the upper right corner, well, most of them do, to the actual Google Colab file that I use to create the code for the book. So you can look at my files, and you can also save a copy in Drive, save it as something else, and keep a copy of all these for your reference. Now, while that's totally fine, I would caution against doing that for everything, or making that your only way of getting code. Because learning data science and writing code requires two types of memory: procedural memory and declarative memory. Declarative memory is memory about facts, figures, events, memory about something. For example, knowing that the syntax to pull in a Python package is import and the name of the package, and knowing what the name of the package is that you need and how to display or show a chart that you make. That's declarative memory. However, declarative memory is very enhanced when it's supported by content or context relevant declarative memory. Declarative memory is memory about how to do something, like how to ride a bike, or in this case, how to write code. Literally typing out the code is a form of declarative memory, and those two work together much stronger than when you only activate one or the other. So if all you ever do is come here and run my code and simply look at it, you're not going to remember it nearly as well as if you write it out yourself. So my recommendation would be, as you go through the book and find bits of code, have this open in one tab. Let me rearrange my windows here so you can see what I'm talking about. I'd have that book up in one tab, and I would have your file open in another. We don't need the table of contents open, so I'll get rid of that. And I would sit here and, oh, I gotta move that one over too, sorry. There we go. And I would sit here and look at the book, read the book, and then have your own code block over here where you watch it and type it out yourself on your own. matplotlib.pyplot as plt, import numpy as np. Now, what'll happen at sometimes is you'll have a typo or something. So here I'm going to write adventure, and I'm going to forget my comma after adventure and accidentally type in action. And I'm going to run this code, and it won't work the way it's supposed to. As I continue to go through and write out the rest of this code, it won't display this properly because I forgot this comma back here. Now that's a pain. Nobody likes bugs in their code. However, resolving and solving bugs is one of the best things you can do to learn. It teaches you problem solving. And it'll apply to a lot more than just writing code. There's research to show that people who are good code debuggers are also great writers, of all types, because they're good at putting together logical arguments that flow together. So anyway, I'm trying to encourage you as much as I can to write out the code yourself. But as a last ditch effort, or worst case scenario, if you need to, you can come here and you can copy this directly into your book. Shift Enter, there's the chart. You could also, directly from the book, come and copy it out of here. Now, one disadvantage of this, and it's not a huge disadvantage, is that in the book, notice how there's some extra tabs and spaces. That's necessary for the book, but when I go to copy and paste that in here, see how it puts those spaces in there? What you can do is select the whole thing, and instead of tabbing, hit Shift Tab. Shift Tab brings it back the other way. And then you can go ahead and hit Shift Enter, and it runs and works all as well. All right, so anyway, you've got several options. In my opinion, best thing you can do, make your own file, look at the code yourself, type it, and as you go, you even have a chance to run it one line at a time and make sure things work. For example, let's say you get this far, you can run that code, and you've got this list created here. You haven't created the image yet, but you can at least print out the list and see if the list looks the way you think it should. Oh, great. Now you can go and type out the next line. No movies. We're going to assume that I took the time to type that out. And then tab that back. And then I can test out that one. No movies. And make sure that it's looking the way that I think it should. So typing it and running it a little bit at a time makes debugging easier, helps you learn what's actually going on with the code better. So that's the best way to actually learn the content in the book. Although you can copy and paste it, this is a much better way. All right. I think that's good enough. I think you're ready to get started. Talk to your instructor if you have other questions on using Colab, but good luck with the course.